I told Cindy I was going to run up on the stage and do my little Rocky imitation. I am, after all, here in Philadelphia. But she said, no, I could run down because of my heels, and she's worried about risk. They gave me the check already. What could happen now? And of course, Tracy said we could cancel it. Oh, well. No. So first, thank you. Thank you to all the organizers. I will say, isn't it impressive how much fabulous marketing surrounds this conference? I mean, I'm a marketing professor. I can tell you, it warms the cockles of my heart to see this kind of fabulous display. If I was a sponsor, I would be running up on the stage right now. Do you see the escalator? That's amazing. Now, I will tell you, this is not my first rodeo. And it is the first time, though, that someone has requested a photograph for a movie poster. And of course, I forgot the scarf. I was trying to look exactly the same, which is really not hard because I have only one suit. But as you guys know, I'm filling in time here. We're just seeing a couple people coming in, so I'm going to start in a minute. But at least half of the audience knows that the weather is responsible for my bad hair. What was that yesterday? Okay, not good. So, okay, now I can start. I don't see a steady stream, but I'm going to continue as if everyone's here, and we can catch up later if you miss any part of this. This is a topic that is really, really important to me. I know it's really important to you as well, and I would love to be able to say that we made a difference, right? Everybody here wants to have an impact. Everybody here wants to make a difference. Everybody here would like to say that they made a small, significant contribution to improving people's welfare. I know that's why you do what you do. Despite the frustration, despite how difficult it is, despite even sometimes what I'm going to call resistance, you want to make a difference. I also know, having done this for a while, that a focus on the way people think, what they know, how much they understand, is insufficient to predict whether they will act in their best self-interest. We know this about ourselves. We do this ourselves. How many of you know you should have exercised before you had breakfast this morning? We all know this. How many of you know you're supposed to take your vitamins? Or are you? See, this is the problem. How many of you know that, you probably shouldn't have engaged in that online shopping binge last night? We know this. But somehow, we still go ahead and do this because something else gets in the way. So, I'm going to ask you this. I sat with a couple of people for breakfast, so thank you. I was a mystery shopper. I didn't say anything. But I was listening carefully to the conversation. And I want you to ask yourself the same question. Like, if you had a choice and you had to do something naughty, like eat a huge breakfast, would you have it on the first day of the conference or the last day of the conference? So I want you to raise your hand. How many of you would have the naughty breakfast on the last day of the conference? I'm so glad I wasn't here the last couple of days. I would have been dead. This was an amazing breakfast. So you raised your hand. And the reason is because you know that if you had had that breakfast on the first day of the conference, you would have crossed a line. There was a license, and you would not have been able to control yourself for 3 days. Right? So you impose a penalty on yourself because you are aware of your weakness. Right? I'm pointing at me. right? Aware of your weakness. And that's what we're going to discuss today. We are going to discuss how not financial literacy and understanding plans and compound interest and all that good stuff that you guys talk about all the time has an impact on the choices we make, but how these other things, like knowing your feelings and understanding yourself and knowing that you are incapable sometimes of controlling yourself, prompts you or motivates you to impose certain self-penalties and to accept certain restrictions on what I'm going to call ought behaviors. And saving is an ought behavior, right? Like health is an ought behavior, and voting is an ought behavior, right? That's what, it's not for buying a used car, okay? So immediately don't think like that. But what I'm about to share with you really only works for things we know we ought to do, but somehow, despite our best efforts, our short-term interests, our short-term costs and benefits get in the way of our long-term interests. Now, what do we do about that? And that's what I want to talk about. So this is so exciting for me. I'm going to whip through these slides because I would like to spend some time in a Q&A session. Send your questions. I tried to get Tracy to come up here. She said, no, thank you, and I'm in charge of the conference. So she's going to be reading those questions that you sent to her. Send them, throughout the presentation. I'll be very, very happy to engage in a Q&A at the end of my presentation, but also after the conference. Okay, so a couple of caveats here. Tell me if anybody disagrees, otherwise I'm going to whip through this. Do you agree that how we think and feel are related? You don't agree? Ooh, I love that. And I see now immediately, I just want to give you the mic. I love that. So here's a question for you. Do you believe there's a cost of thinking? Do you think thinking is costly? Right? Okay, how many of you hear your significant others say, I've been thinking, and you go, uh-oh. Thinking can be problematic. And we know a lot of the things we do, including auto-enrollment, auto-escalation, is somehow to reduce cost of thinking, is it not? We all know choices make people miserable. So this is really important that we think about this. Because when I say miserable, that means this is how we feel about it. Right? You give people choice. I was sitting at breakfast today, and people are not just thinking about DB plans and DC plans and going from DB plans to DC plans, but being in a plan where there's part DB and part DC. Oi! I'm listening to the three people, I'm going, if I was going to have worrying about treatment and going to have surgery and you were my physicians, I would start crying. And yet, we want people to trust us, to have faith in us, to be comfortable with us, to be happy with their choices. It's a good thing we only watch what our doctors are thinking on like Grey's Anatomy and stuff. Very tough. And so people have very deep feelings about money. I can promise you this. They have deep feelings. We spoke about, at breakfast I was listening, trust, wanting to be face-to-face with someone. Why do you think that happens? Because they want to know, do you get them? Do they know you? What does that have to do with all of the calculations? Really important. People have to feel in their gut that this is right. And so all I'm saying is people rely on their feelings to make many more choices, especially, think of it this way. You're buying wine, right? How many like me have no clue what to buy, right? So I'm going to use some other cue, right? I'm going to use some other feature, because what am I going to do here? I'm going to ask somebody, I'm going to look at the price, right? I'm going to try to find in my memory something that doesn't exist. but I'm going to have to use something else. And often people will use feelings. Okay? So what's really happening in our brains, and I won't go into your brain right now, but there's this constant communication between how we think and how we feel. And don't ignore those feelings is all I want to tell you in this morning's session. Don't ignore the feelings, because I'm going to give you examples of how people feel has an impact on whether they save, how much they save, what their choices are for their retirement plans. And if you don't take that into account when you are trying to make that small, significant contribution like I am, then we're leaving something on the table. So don't ignore the anxiety. Don't even ignore the absolute sadness when people are talking about not having enough money to retire. Don't ignore those things, because we're going to talk about how those have an impact on choice. Okay, so quick thing on my approach, because it impacts everything I do. Every time I'm in a financial decision-making conference, I think about health. Every time I'm at CDC or a health conference, I think about money. And I want you to actually see if you can get yourself out of your shoes and think like one of your clients, one of your consumers, someone from your target audience. Because then you cannot do anything without empathy. Once you empathize, you will be able to design much better communication, much better plans, and much better marketing in general if you can empathize with your audience. So the reason I told you the example about I'm sitting with the 3 people and thinking, oh, if you were my doctors, I'd be freaking out right now, is because sometimes when you do your thing, you have to appear confident, you have to appear certain, you have to appear sure of what you're presenting to everybody else, and that can cause a problem. In terms of empathy, it gets in the way of empathy. Nothing gets in the way of empathy than overconfidence. Being insecure is fabulous, because that's how the other person is feeling. So you're actually connecting. So be insecure, be a good listener. For me, as a marketer, the only requirement for being a good marketer is to be a good listener. And you can't be a good listener if you don't empathize. So empathize. I do it by putting on my health hat when I'm in your conference, and vice versa. That helps me. You figure out a way that would help you. I look at the role of emotions on Responsibility 101. We all know that individuals have to take responsibility for themselves. Social Security, 401ks, not enough. You need that third leg, right? You have to be responsible for your own saving behavior now. And in some cases, for your own asset allocation behavior. So if I had to write a book, it would be on Responsibility 101. I am so cruel that my poor kids were never allowed to say, I forgot. They had to say, it's not a priority for me. Be responsible. What's this, forgot? What does it mean, forgot? Like, where is it in the ether? I was unlucky, I forgot, the computer hates me. What? No, say it's not important to me. And so one of the things you'll see in some of the interventions is my doing everything I can to make people say, I'm saying no, but it's and I'm saying no, and I accept the consequences. Okay? Be responsible. And then one of the things I'm going to show you, and what I truly believe is financial incentives are great, matching is great, teaching people that you will actually gain income and money if you save early is great. But if you add emotions to it, it's better than using either one of those alone. Okay? So that's the approach. Okay, enough of that. I'm sorry, I hope you can see that. And I'll read it out to you if you cannot. But this is what I was talking about earlier when I said we impose all kinds of penalties on ourselves. Like this morning when I set the alarm, I placed it on the floor, the whole 30 feet of my room. It was a very large room. Thank you. I mean, it was like a runway. And so I'm like in one corner, and I put the phone as far away, farthest outlet. You do stuff like that? Because what would happen then? You have to do that. Because I would have to walk over there. There's no way I could just bang it and go back to sleep, right? I would have to walk there. So this is what we mean by counteractive self-control. See that circle at the bottom? It's what I was talking about earlier. We do things because of lack of self-control, to counteract that, we impose a penalty on ourselves. You don't buy bags of potato chips in the house. So you only eat badly when you go out and when you're traveling, right? That's counteractive self-control. You're willing to impose a penalty. And it's because our short-term costs get in the way of good choices and actions that are in our long-term best self-interest. So that's the reason we engage in this. And I have a site there for you that you're more than welcome to check out. They do a much better job describing this. And I'm going to show you an example of that. OK, so context. That was a little psych mumbo jumbo for you. Now, this is context that most of you are familiar with, right? You have all kinds of nudges to help people save, all the way from the ones you're most familiar with, defaults, opting in, opting out, auto escalation 3x, trying to think about the amount of reward by placing it in a small pond or small fishbowl versus large fishbowl, framing, glass half full, gains, losses, highlighting text or making things salient, as well as giving people clear pathways or a checklist of what they need to do in order to save, to enroll, to increase their participation, and even to reduce leakage, right? So we have all of these things. But what I'm going to posit is that these current nudges don't manage emotions. They're all focused on increasing what I'm going to call feasibility, right? Making things easier. They are not focused on what I'm going to say is really important, and that is increasing desirability, or reducing negative emotions or promoting positive emotions to actually make this what I'm going to call an approach behavior. I want to approach this. I want to do this. It appeals to me. I'm going to feel good while I'm doing it, before I'm doing it, not just after I've done it. Phew, thank God I never have to do that again. And this is the importance of thinking about feelings, not just about making things easy or feasibility. Let's focus on desirability. And what I'd like to do is think about different types of emotions and how they have an impact on what we do. Now, there's lots of studies, and if you're comfortable, I actually have a citation list at the end of the presentation. You're more than welcome to have that. And it has studies on all of these different ones. And I'm going to focus on regret today, the last one. But if you're interested, there's a study, for example, that I published on, instead of calling for happiness, how do you evoke happiness in people in a saving context? And what I do is, saving is actually it's not a happy thing. I know you guys think it's happy, but you're strange. Normal people out there that you need to empathize with they think saving is a loss. Saving means not having something. Saving means, denial. And so they don't like it. So what I've done is, in this particular study, I actually reframed saving as income. And they like that. They like income. And, and of course, you can talk about it in terms of future income. And they don't because they think saving means you can't buy stuff. So I say, it's just not you can't buy stuff. It's like you can buy more stuff later. OK, so just an example. You can check out the study. It's in the reference list. Excuse me. Let's look at anxiety and sadness. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that. So anxiety and sadness. I'll give you a simple example. And this is really simple, but just to give you an idea of another study. These have an impact on how we think about our choices. So if you tell someone you have two choices, and I'll make it simple just because we've all just had 3 cups of coffee. You have and you can add zeros, okay? You have a 2% chance of winning $5, yeah? Or a 5% chance of winning $2. Yeah? 2% chance of winning $5, 5% chance of winning $2. The expected value of both choices is the same, 2 times 5, 10, okay? People who are sad are looking for rewards. Will they prefer the 2% chance of winning $5 or the 5% chance of winning $2? The first one, right? The 2% chance of winning $5 because $5 is greater than $2. They want more rewards. People who are anxious are looking for certainty. So they would rather have the 5% chance of winning $2, right? Because 5% is higher than 2%. So they want higher certainty. They're looking for a higher percentage of getting the prize, whereas the anxious people, whereas the people who are sad are looking for more money, even if the odds of getting that money, the percentage chance of winning is actually lower. So again, you can take a look. And I'm just giving this to you, obviously. There were more zeros. It was in a more, concrete context, more, realistic context. But I'm just showing you a simple example of what happens to people when they're making choices. And you know that often especially in a DC plan, when we're responsible for asset allocation, those are the kinds of things we normally have to make trade-offs of, right? More risky, right? Less risky. And we find that women, especially women, who tend to be more anxious and let their emotions have an impact on their choices, and that publication is also in that list, will tend to use their emotions to make these distinctions or choices that I just explained as compared to guys. So if you guys were going, I wouldn't do that, yeah, you're just like the guys in my sample. Now we talk about regret, and I love, love, love regret. You guys have heard about loss aversion, right? You do a lot of stuff with loss aversion. I want to talk about regret aversion, because I tell you, the biggest problem with saving is, and health decisions, is we don't connect to our future selves. Why should I invest in some future self that I don't connect with? Who is that person? Most of us don't even understand our past selves. You look at old photographs of yourself, right? And you're like, who is this person? What were they wearing? What is with that hair? What are they eating? I can't believe the only thing that I can relate to is the music. I can still understand why I was listening to that music. That is cool. The rest, some other person inhabited that body and mind. It was not me. So if I can't even connect to a concrete self, past self, I went through that, and I'm like, who's that person? How do you expect me to rationally connect to some future self that I have never experienced? It's really, really difficult. And the one emotion of all these emotions that I find reliably helps people connect with their future self, it is regret anticipation. If I just hit the pause button for everything I do, so I was doing the shopping binge last night because I got soaked coming from the airport. All this bad stuff happened to me. My flight was delayed. I deserved a reward. So I have, and I didn't shop, and I'll tell you why. Despite spending hours, so it was very good return on investment, because I didn't buy anything and I spent a lot of time. I have a little card that has 24 on it. I wish I had my wallet here, I'd show it to you. Just like, it's the size of a credit card, and it just has the letter 24, number 24 on it. And it just tells me I can do whatever I want, buy whatever I want. I just have to wait 24 hours. So I put everything in my cart on all these websites and all these vendors who were thinking, oh my God, it's Christmas. And then I didn't buy anything because I had to wait 24 hours. And guess what's going to happen? I'm going to be on my way home. And yes, things may go south, But the chances of my engaging in that behavior are really low. And that 24 card for me is anticipatory regret. I just stop and I say, will I regret this tomorrow when I have to tell my husband? And he doesn't buy that stuff like, okay, you made $2, you spend $1, it's okay. Sometimes because of tax. Then sometimes, but I made $3, I spent $1. We're still ahead. None of this is working for me. So it's that anticipatory, am I going to regret this decision? And it's just a pause. So anticipatory regret is the most fabulous way of connecting your present self to your future self. You start thinking about the negative consequences of your behavior before you engage in the behavior. We have all these studies, and again in the list, that show that when people are evoking anticipatory regret, they tend to be more risk averse. They'll pick the less risky option. And now that brings you full circle to what I discussed in enhanced active choice. If you can set up the choice architecture so that your advocated pathway, your advocated course of action is the less risky option, then anticipatory regret can get you there full speed ahead. They'll pick the choice you want. They'll pick the option you want. So that's the basic idea of it. This indeed is your future self, if only I wish, but how do you connect your current self to your future self? And we're going to talk about it by increasing anticipatory regret. So now I'm going to go much faster. Now that you understand the motivation and the approach, what I'm going to show you is enhanced active choice is going to increase anticipatory regret, and that anticipatory regret is going to increase participation in saving behaviors. Okay, so those are the steps. Now let's take a look at this. You guys are already familiar with this. You have opt-in, right? Very straightforward. And I'm just obviously doing a paper pencil version of this. You can have electronic and other versions of this. But yeah, please opt in for those people who don't have automatic enrollment. For those of you who have automatic enrollment, definitely, the default is that you're enrolled unless you opt out. And then along came these really, really smart people, mostly from Harvard, Bridget Marin, David Lapson, these guys who did a very simple experiment that most of you are familiar with. They went to a company and said, why don't we ask the employees, the new employees, to just check one box. I will enroll, I will not enroll in the company's 401k plan, right? And what was amazing is that they found a 22% lift as compared to opt-in. So I'm comparing it to opting in, okay? Because that's what the company's default was, is you had to opt in. And it was amazing, because what's the difference, right? What's the difference between the first option and the third option? If you say, I will enroll, isn't that the same thing as saying I will enroll in option 3? If you don't enroll in option 1, opting in, isn't that the same thing as saying I will not enroll? What is responsible for a 22% lift? And the biggest thing that was responsible, and this is the key here, you actually had to say no. It's amazing. If you take one lesson away from this whole session, saying no in your head is very different from saying no on paper in public to somebody else. Because why? It's an ought behavior. You know that you should not say no. So being able to say no in your head is much easier than saying no overtly. And now so it's not the same thing. You have to actually say no, because now suddenly, because most people think in the first option that they haven't said no, even if they don't enroll. They think inaction does not have any costs. That's the biggest problem. And you and I mean, well, we know, but we don't believe it, that when you don't do something, that has a cost, right? Like exercising in the morning and not taking your vitamin, that has a cost. It's not costless. So me being the marketer, decided to kick it up a notch and said, what happens if I, instead of active choice, made it enhanced active choice and actually specified the costs and benefits of the option? So what if I said, yes, I want to enroll, I want to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle for the rest of my life, even after I stop working? No, I don't want to. You see, you're laughing now, but that was what they were doing when they don't engage in saving behaviors or don't want to enroll in the plan. Okay, now you ask me, why did I focus on, even after I stop working, knowing someday I will have to stop working? Because I'm a marketing person. So the way I design enhanced active choice is I ask my audience, I'm all about barrier-based behavior change. Why are you not saving for retirement, right? And the most common response I get is, I'm going to work till I die. Right? So I have to nudge them into believing, you know what? They're not going to work till they die. Which is why I'm saying, knowing someday I will have to stop working, that I may not have a choice. Right? I learned this from health. I learned because people will not fill out an advance directive, CPR, DNR, et cetera, because they think they're going to be walking on the street, have a heart attack, and die. So what's the CPR, DNR, stuff like that? Right? And I have to say, enhanced active, I have to say things like, do you want to decide how you die, or do you want the attending physician to decide how you die? But die you will, and it probably isn't going to be in a hospital. If you think financial decision-making is doom and gloom, you should come to my world. Financial bankruptcy stuff does not have as serious consequences as health, trust me. But that's why we do it. So you will see, as I give you examples, you can now already start thinking about things like, ooh, what can I do here to replace it? If my constituent feels, no, you know what, I'm not saving for retirement because somehow I'll find some money somewhere someday. Put it in there. Say, yes, I want to enroll, because I know, right, that money is not just going to fall from the trees. No, I don't want to enroll because somehow, somewhere, I will find some money someday. I love these. Or there'll be things like, oh, of course, you can always do the tax deferred, la, la, la. But you guys are better at that than even I am. I want to take advantage of the tax-deferred compensation. No, I don't want to have anything to do with this because even if it means I have to forego that tax advantage. Fair enough. But I like finding out how people are really feeling, right, about this. There are people who will not do this, say, no, I want to invest in my child's education because you know what? My child will take care of me after I retire. How's that? Yeah? I told you, empathy, empathy. Don't diss it, you have to listen, right? This is what I've heard. So then you have to put it in the enhanced active choice. You have to say, yes, I want to enroll because I don't want to depend on my kids after I retire. No, I don't want to enroll because my kid owes me. Because I invested in their education. Oh, come on, it's a rational decision. It's economics. Reciprocity, I give you, you give. But you see where I'm going with this. And you can do it for leakage. To prevent leakage, you can say, yes, I want to continue in the sponsored plan. I want to stay in my plan. And, because it's, I'm familiar with it, I trust it, I'd like to continue even after I retire. No, thank you, I don't want to stay in it, I'm rolling over. What's with that whole rollover? Okay, never mind. I'm rolling over as if you have to. It's the only place I know in this context where rolling over seems to be like a good thing. Not. Despite the fact that I actually, may have to pay more fees and there could be more uncertainty, right? You could do it when someone is you can use enhanced active choice when someone is thinking about opting out, right? It's not just for enrollment. You could say, pause button, you're opting out, right? You're borrowing, right? Taking a loan, pause button, yes, I want to do this, right? Knowing that there are consequences. No, I'm still okay with it, even though you've told me, here are all the problems with my actions, right? When they actually, you could be saying this, but when they actually have to, it's like a little commitment contract check. Yes, I acknowledge I am responsible for my behavior. People seem to do the right thing. It's amazing. And we have data over and over again that this, just making them aware of it, making them accept the consequences of their action, or the benefits of the communicated desired alternative seems to make a world of difference. So that's where this is coming from. The nice things about enhanced active choice, clearly there's no default, which of course has all kinds of its own advantages, right? Because we know right now the defaults are too low. In general, they may be matching too low, that defaults for participation rates too low, and especially for certain segments, such as people who have poor health, or people who are going to live longer, or people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Gender, so many different factors. Excuse me, so not having a default is good. It's a compulsory choice. And we even have data, actually, when we don't force people to choose, or we give them an option of saying, no, I don't want to make a decision right now because this is not important, they don't like taking that choice. But you see how nasty I am. It's just like how I treat my kids. Be responsible. Say, because that's what you're doing. You're saying, I'm deferring this decision. Say it's not a priority. Don't say, no, sit, stand, no wobbling. No wobbling. Ought behaviors, you have to certain outcomes. You can't lie. So you have to say, this will improve my chances of having a better, this will give me more choices about when I retire. You can't say, you're going to ride out into the sunset hunky-dory, because that's false, right? So you have to tell the truth. And of course, you got compliance written all over your faces right now, so I know you will. And then, of course, what we're doing is we're focusing on the feasibility and the desirability, not just the feasibility, right? Which is what previous nudges do. We're even actually saying, do this and you get these positive outcomes in the choice itself. Now, I know you say all these positive things up there, and then you leave the choice alone. And I promise you, from what I've learned in health as well as wealth decision-making, people don't incorporate all the positives and the benefits that you state in the beginning of your communication, to the left of your communication, to the right of the communication, when they're actually making a choice. So help them make a good trade-off by putting those positives and negatives in the choice itself. Don't leave it up there in the ether. And again, you got papers that show you this. I'll give you a quick example. It was a CDC project, right? So you say, get a flu shot because it will reduce your chances of acquiring and disseminating the flu virus, right? I say that up front, and then I give them, yes, no, I will get a flu shot, right? Versus, yes, I will get a flu shot to reduce my chances of acquiring and disseminating the flu virus. No, I will not get a flu shot, even if it will increase my chances of acquiring and disseminating the flu virus. The difference between the first and the second, 35% buy-in for how many people get a flu shot. Said the same thing, right? Except one was on the top, was not in the choice. The second one is in the choice itself. Create it, make it inherent in the choice. Okay, so case study. You can see this here. In case you're wondering, you're worried about compliance, right? So why not go all the way to state employees in Ohio, 6 months, using enhanced active choice and the magic of NARP and Lori Rowley and her team, and a lot of positive emotions that come out of the communication that I'm going to show you. Increase plan participation by 25%, increase auto escalation by more than 600%. So I'm sorry, if this is not as clear as you would like, but I want to make sure that you acknowledge all the wonderful work that's been done by NARP to do this. See, positive emotions. Look at the right side of the panel, which is actually the front page of the brochure. It's the facing page. It says, instead of saying how to save for retirement or how to take care of your retirement, it says how to give yourself a bonus today. Remember that study I was telling you about? Make it positive. Think of it as income instead of saving. Think of it as a bonus instead of a loss. And then we go through, all the good stuff that you guys typically do, but here's the enhanced active choice version of it. Yes, I would like to increase my contribution to my retirement account so that I can feel more comfortable, have a more comfortable retirement. No, thank you. And now if this could pass compliance, what I'm asking you to do is pretty similar. And I love lawyers, so you send them to me. I wanted to be a lawyer growing up. I really like those guys. And it's really important that they be there, because what we do is so important that you don't want people to willy-nilly say stuff, right? That may hurt the population. That's their job. And so once I tell them that I'm on their side, it's almost as good as getting pulled over by a cop for traffic violations. It works really, really well. Okay, so this is the same idea, the same data I was showing you earlier, a 25% increase in voluntary enrollment and a 600+% increase in auto escalation using Save More for Tomorrow, or SMART. Okay, so I'll stop here. I'll leave this for you. It's persuasive because it's simple. There's no default. It highlights the desirability of new options. It increases the salience of not doing anything or status quo costs, and it reduces procrastination because you are responsible for your own future best interest. And all this data we have makes people feel more accountable, more in control. They love having a choice. They feel more in control, more trustworthy, more committed, more regretful if they don't act, more satisfied with the decision. And really important here, I think, because of what's happening in our marketplaces and in just the culture and the community and the environment in general and national politics, feeling like a stronger connection with the sponsor. So that's the data that we have. As I said, I have a list of references. I would be very, very excited if the organizers shared these slides with you if you're interested, and then you don't have to worry about taking notes, pictures. I'm really bad at listening and doing that at the same time, so I should have mentioned that at the outset. Great. Tracy, I'm ready for you.
All right. So the first question is, what is NARP?
Oh, the National Association of Retired Plan Participants. They're awesome. And I could not have done this study without them. I mean, I was just tagging along, to be honest with you. I'm very, very excited. I can't make a small contribution if I don't partner with a lot of different people. And that's one amazing organization. I've partnered with other government agencies, partnered with companies, partnered with groups of financial advisors, even partnered with groups of asset managers, because everyone has an interest in this shared mission, this shared goal of helping people have a more stable retirement plan.
Okay, next question is, would this help in getting voters to support things like a bond measure for school funding?
Yes, so again, is it ought behavior? You have to always ask yourself that same question. Is this something that people, would automatically feel they ought to do? If they don't feel that, then it doesn't work, right? Because you're going to say, really, you're forcing me to make a choice? That's why I spend all that time at the outset describing counteractive self-control. People don't want to be pressured into making a choice if they don't feel like this is not something they should have done anyway, right? So that's the important thing to think about, is first you've got to create that sense, yes, this is something I'm responsible for, and this is something that I ought to do. What I would recommend here is talk about the advantages of that option, right, of the bond measure, and then talk about the alternative, right? Highlight the costs of the alternative, what impact it would have for the school, for the district, for the community, and then you will have a better understanding of whether people feel like this is something that they ought to do. You'll get pushback, trust me, right away if it's not an ought behavior.
Okay, next question. Explain the title under your name, Third Century What?
Oh my God. So, I mean, it's not, there's one thing where you don't have a choice some days of just, you feel old, you feel young. This silly title is actually, unfortunately, just the person who gave the money for the chair that I hold was in the 3rd century. So I feel old every day. And, oh, wait, I want to tell you a little bit more. It's it doesn't matter, blah, 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 da, 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 of management of men. So it was so old that there were only men in the school. And then, so I'm the Charles Henry Jones, 3rd century professor of management of men. This poor man must be turning in his grave. Because here I am, woman, holding the chair. Oh, well. So that's how old the chair is. It's the only chair at Dartmouth that actually was specified that it was management only of men, because women, of course, well, can't be managed, we know that.
Okay, do you have examples of the difference between compliance-approved language versus language that is over the line?
Oh, so there's no such. For me, every time I walk in, it's over the line. And every time I walk out, it's compliant. So all the examples that I gave you have had past compliance, right? So when I say things like, you saw, tax-deferred compensation, or saying, because that's the whole thing. As long as the outcome is certain, I get permission, right? So that's what I was referring to earlier, where it has to be certain outcomes. You can't lie. You can't say, do this, and you will never have to worry about retirement, because that's false, right? So you have to, as long as it's true, I'm okay. And the lawyer's okay.
Appealing to emotions is sometimes seen as unethical. How do you respond to that? We often have to have a hands-off, not recommending stance.
Yep. See, this is what I like. You are actually not supposed to provide advice or recommendations, but it's all about the cognitive thinking part, not advice on how you should feel. So I actually can get around compliance sometimes because there's nothing in the law that says you can't tell people how to feel. And most of the things that are fascinating is you're actually helping people be more responsible, or you're not actually, and this is why we do the pre and post tests, where I give them no enhanced active choice, or I give them options. You saw the 4 options, right? Opt-in, opt-out, active choice, and enhanced active choice. And we're constantly measuring how they feel. And they actually, I told you, see that bottom? Oh, it disappeared. Oh, no, it's me. Oh, no. Oh, no. I hate that. I wish I hadn't seen that. No, okay, at the bottom of the useful last slide, it said it makes people feel more in control, more committed, more regretful if they don't act, more satisfied with the decision. This is really important to me. I don't want them to feel worse after the decision. I would feel terrible. I mean, for you guys, maybe to some extent, your promotions, your compensations, your ranks are in part based on, things like how many people enroll, or how much is in the plan, and things like that. That is not my metric for success. I am just this professor. For me, I would be mortified if they felt worse after something I had created than if they felt better after engaging in something I had created.
How do we improve upon being empathetic? Can this be learned?
Oh, definitely. So there's all kinds, so you know how you do those Myers-Briggs tests, and you're an INTJPQRS, you know what I'm talking about. I have no feelings. I do. I'm literally, it's not even like 3/4 of the way, halfway, I'm the other end of the scale. So true to form, like any other good academic, I study things I'm clueless about. So I study feelings in order to figure out how to get feelings. And empathy, as I said, is very, very important. And as you can tell, I'm a terrible listener. So I say, this has got to be part of the mission. This is part of what I have to learn. So I literally put myself in classes and read stuff and situations where I have to change. How can I be a behavior change expert if I'm not willing to change my own behavior? So yes, you can actually do this. I'll give you a really quick example. I had a very large, I had Unilever, right? Okay, large company. I want to make the senior management more empathetic, better listeners. And you know how it is. The more senior you get, the less you listen. So these are all heads of different countries, okay? Heads of countries, okay. So what we did is we give them this little pack, and this is just a quick exercise for how to learn how to be empathetic and be a better listener. And it's like this emergency pack, with just an emergency phone number, a little bit of money, but basically they have to spend an entire day without speaking. And they get paired with, in this case, we did this at 4 Acres, just out, actually where Wimbledon is. And that's where the Unilever place is. And we pair them with a housewife from one of the neighboring counties like Surrey, et cetera. And they have to follow this woman around. They're all guys. They have to follow this woman around because that's their main customer. It's Unilever. They have to follow this woman around the whole day without speaking. So people are going, they shop, and and the only requirement is they have to go to a grocery store to buy things because they want to see that's where most of their products are sold, right? And it's just like one of those things, they're not allowed to speak. And so at the end of this, they come back, and it's so that they observe, that they listen, that they actually, can understand what a day in the life of this person is. And I remember the manager from Spain going completely bonkers because he was so excited. And at first he was like, oh, I'm not doing this. And I said, yeah, they put me in charge of the day. Sorry, dude, you gotta go. So you have to understand, normally each of these people has like 10 people following them, with their, they're not carrying the stuff, and so, it's just like with their water, there's bodyguards. I said, no, you're going just with nobody else. And he gets so excited because they had this product where they were, it was, for them, a fantastic product. It wasn't selling well in the market. It was an oil for frying that had the same taste but lower fat. And they had done all this work to show, yeah, that's really important to people, right? They wanted something. Point of parity was taste, point of difference, lower fat. Yes, that's really important. It wasn't selling. And he was so excited because he finally figured out why it wasn't selling, because he couldn't open his mouth. He had to stand in the kitchen, outside the kitchen. He'd never been in a kitchen before. So he was standing outside the kitchen because he's scared to go in the kitchen. And she's frying fish and chips, of course. What else do they eat? And she's frying this. And he realized at that split second why their oil wasn't selling. And he realized it was because when, you know how you figure out if the oil is hot enough, you put like a little drop of something like batter, or if you're brave, water or something, right? Because then it'll pop or bubble up to the top. She did this. He doesn't know how to, I told you, he's never been in a kitchen. So fish don't see water. He was observing things and empathizing in ways he had never empathized before. And she leaned over, and that was it for him. Because he realized at that split second, and I would never have figured this out because I actually cook, is she was smelling the oil at the same time as testing to see if it was warm enough. And it was the smell that was making people think that something was wrong with the oil, and they weren't buying it, even though that was not the case. So all they had to do is artificially change the smell, right? Keep everything else the same. But it just tells you about the value of exercises like this. Follow your customers. Go spend a day in the life of your customers. Those people, those single moms, those people who have 3 jobs, those people who are in companies who, don't have a computer screen. We were discussing this during breakfast. Don't have an email account. Who don't have an office. How are they supposed to comply with the things you want them to, like even simple things like enrolling, right? What are they supposed to do? And we did a study, and again, it's in the list of sites, where we actually gave them this fold-out sheet to put in their pocket, with a checklist of things that they had to do homework ahead of time, like getting the social security number of a beneficiary, so that if they did have 5 minutes and they could pop in, we told them a space in the library or space in the benefits office, et cetera, they had this little ready thing they could rely on. So that's what I mean by empathy. Thank you for that question.
Do you simply take the opposite approach for choices a participant may have that may not be in their best interest to avoid providing advice? For example, a choice to enroll in a lesser benefit.
Wow. So I'm actually a little confused by the question. Why would you do that? I am confused. Choice to enroll in a lower benefit. Why would you do that? Can you help me out with this one? Go ahead. He knows the answer. Just give it to him.
I'm assuming they're saying is even if you have a lower benefit, it has a lower overall cost to the employer or the system. And so how I'm interpreting the question is
so that they don't have to spend as much on the match.
That's how I'm
get
interpreting
it, now.
but I'm not sure.
See how trusting I am? How I just feel like, no, you're going to do everything. Yeah, I know. You know, I guess you could, but I hate it when you use my interventions for evil doings. You know, I mean, I saw your sponsors, including Shrum, you know. I'm on the side of the Society for Human Resource Management. They would never recommend something like that. Bad True North.
How do you deal with two ought scenarios, such as a voter deciding between putting money toward an education system versus putting it toward more police on the streets?
Wow. Wow, so this is also interesting. You know, we do this a lot. Whenever we don't want to make a choice, we make it so abstract that somehow we come out ahead. This reminds me, it's like my nurse, you know, I'm doing the study, and I say, okay, you're eating pizza, you say you want to lose weight. It's all about voluntary behavior change. I don't like forcing anyone to do anything. It's about meeting your goals, not my goals or somebody else's goal. She wants to lose weight. And I said, are you going to go exercise later? She said, no, I'm going to go and volunteer in NICU tonight. So I feel bad eating the pizza. I'm going to feel good if I volunteer. Everything is in harmony. What? What? This was not the idea. So, and this is what this sounds like, you know. Okay, I'm gonna wiggle out of this by just creating a choice so that, you know, there's even a higher order there, something like, no, just be responsible and then create a choice architecture that, because remember, no, you know what's happening here. This sort of thing is not a problem. It's really more, if you can figure out a way to improve and control your own behavior for things you know you ought to do, but you're not being responsible for as much as you should, you'll be able to do this for everybody else. Don't abuse it. Remember what you're trying to do here. So listen to people, figure out what is getting in the way of why they're not saving. Figure out what is getting in the way of why they're not enrolling or increasing their participation rates, or why they're thinking about taking a loan, or why they're thinking about leaving the plan after they retire. Listen carefully and let them make the choice. And all I'm saying here is help them understand the costs and benefits of the options in a simple way, embedded in the choice itself, and then let them choose. You know, this is, I'm not trying to whip anyone into shape here. I'm just helping them make an informed decision. And after they've made that decision, I'm very comfortable with, I've done my job. It is their choice at the end of the day. I feel like if they want to take that path, that's okay. But I have done a better job helping simplify the choice for them and helping highlight the costs and benefits of the different options. And I'm okay with that then. So what I would love very much for you to, and I'm going to stop here because I'm almost 2 minutes over time, but what I would love for you to do is think about what you believe would be good goals for your constituents, for your stakeholders. Ask them. Anybody who comes in my office, I say, if they want to meet, what is your goal, what gets in the way? And I can then create a choice architecture around it, because it's their goal. What do they want? What gets in the way? And I'm going to then create the choice in such a way such that they understand that this thing that gets in the way can be overcome, that they can go at least a little towards what it is that they would like to do, what they would like to accomplish, and that I've played a small part in helping them make the trade-off between their short-term interest and their long-term interest. And after that, I'm good to go. So Get in touch, please. You'll see there's, after the slide, there's lots of citations in there if you want to read more. Most of my articles actually have a lot of really great references that highlight the work many, many other very important people, very smart people have done. And this is what this conference is all about, right? It's a journey. It's about learning. It's about sharing. It's about empathetic experimentation and piloting. And then who knows? The next time I see you, you'll be up here sharing information on how you piloted enhanced active choice. So I'll just stop. Yeah, you can, yeah, there you go. There's the selected citations, and there's some examples there. So that sounds really, really good to me. Nothing makes me feel better than when people get in touch afterwards through the sponsors or me directly. As you know, all you have to do is put 3rd century man, that's me. And you can find me easily, and then we'll just go from there. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for all your interest. Thank you.